Usually on the last Friday of every month, I post a podcast interview with a wonderful writer. But this Friday is different. I want to talk about something else. I realize what I'm about to say may not sit well with some of you. My reason for posting this is to help others who may find themselves in a similar position I did. I want to talk about suicide. It appears to be such a taboo, yet it seems so prevalent in our lives today. The idea of suicide elicits strong emotions from people. Some people regard suicide as a sin. Others look at the person who'd committed suicide, or who had tried to, as being selfish. But honestly, when someone feels that low, that the only option they see for themselves is suicide, their thoughts are nowhere near wanting to hurt loved ones. Reprimands will only make things worse for everyone. Instead, what is needed is love and understanding. Some of you may have realized that I haven't been on social media properly since July, August this year. You may even have wondered where I was. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of my lovely friends who checked in on me during this time. I deeply appreciate everyone's support, love and kindness. In particular, I want to thank my dear sister friend Elizabeth. She saved my life. I can honestly say without her, I wouldn't be here today. When she discovered the trouble I was in, she spent hours and hours talking to me, staying with me, and when she couldn't, she called in reinforcements so that I wouldn't be alone during my time of crisis. I could never repay her. Thank you, my darling Elizabeth. So what happened, I hear you ask? In order to give a full answer, I have to look back a little. Many of you know already that due to an ongoing health issue, I had to stop my professional singing career several years ago. At the time, as my body started to recover, I realized the consultants were right and that my operatic career was indeed over. But I could still use my education, skills and abilities and not only teach singing and voice, I could also still work in the theatre on pieces I'd created myself. One such creation was Tempus. It came about as a result of teaching voice at the Actors Centre. My dear friend and multi-talented musician Elizabeth Dockrell-Tyler composed the music, and the brilliant Dr. Philippa Semper wrote the book and lyrics. The idea for Tempus was inspired by Adam Lambert's performances on the Zodiac shows. During this time, I became very close friends with one of the actors I'd cast in Tempus. In Stephen, I recognised a kindred soul, and soon we felt as though we were soul brother and sister, and we treated each other that way. He became one of the most important people in my life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him in it. Stephen was honestly the most talented, wildly creative person I'd ever met and worked with, and we created other shows together as well. So you can imagine my deep shock when he suddenly died, aged only 33. Even though I had lost other important people in my life, nothing had prepared me for the excruciating pain of Stephen's death. It nearly derailed me, but I clung on and decided I would write for both of us, so that his work could also live in the world. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. In the end, I wrote a book about what had happened to Stephen called The Healing Touch. But because I was so sad and I didn't want the book to be only about sadness, I created a love story subplot. Several friends read it and encouraged me to publish it. I'm now in the process of rewriting The Healing Touch to become the novel I always thought it could be. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who'd read the original version and who'd left such wonderful reviews for it. Thank you so much. I thought writing would help. I thought if others knew how amazing Stephen was, I would feel as though I'd shared him, and I would achieve peace. But it never happened. Each year, on the 15th of August, the day on which Stephen died, I try my best to remain upbeat, to remind myself that he wouldn't want me to be sad, that he'd want me to live a full and joyful life. It's been difficult. At the same time, this year in August, I was also dealing with incredibly inconsiderate and very loud neighbours in the apartment above us. I asked and then begged them to be quieter, and when that didn't work, I contacted their landlady directly. Our landlord had given me her number and asked that we contact her whenever we needed help with leaks from her apartment. As you can imagine, this went down like a lead balloon, as the saying goes. Things went from bad to worse to very, very bad, as the tenants above us started sending extremely nasty text messages to my phone and basically bullying me. But we received hope in the form of an email informing us that the tenants would be leaving by the 5th of August. The feeling of relief was enormous. Many musicians are extremely sensitive to sound, and I am no exception. Some of you may even know that I'm a synesthete. This is a condition common to many musicians, but it does make constant loud banging noises above your head impossible to live with. To cut a long story short, I was getting more and more depressed, but I hadn't really understood that that was what was happening to me. Of course, it didn't help that it was August and the anniversary of Stephen's death. Then came the shock of realizing we'd been lied to. The tenants above us had no intention of leaving, and in fact, the noise levels increased dramatically, as did the bullying, abusive text messages, and the aggressive behaviour whenever I left our apartment. I feared for my safety. I felt as though I was being attacked over and over again, and no one seemed to be able to help me. Their landlady clearly didn't care as long as she received the rent money. My landlord, who is a busy doctor, said he didn't know how to help me. And unfortunately, we didn't have the option at the time to move out from an apartment where we'd lived for nearly 14 years. The council couldn't help us, and neither could the police. I'm telling you all of this to explain how I came to decide to end it all and take my own life. It may not seem like a good enough reason to you, but trust me, the noise had gone on for years with no let-up. But always there was the promise that the tenants would soon leave. I could just about deal with it before, but over the past year it had become unbearable in its intensity, as the neighbours had more children who'd started to run and jump on the wooden floors above our head. That, together with their landlady's refusal to insulate the floor in her apartment, dealing with a long-term illness, and the anniversary of Stephen's death, became too much to bear. I felt there was nothing left to live for. I couldn't see a future where I could be free from the noise, the bullying, the negative energy raining down on top of me from the people above, or from the ongoing health issues and the pain I felt about Stephen's death that wouldn't go away. I felt as though I was drowning. I couldn't talk to anyone because, in my mind, it seemed so silly. Surely people had better, more important things to consider other than my moaning about an inconvenient situation. I honestly felt I wouldn't be missed, and more importantly, that perhaps I would see Stephen again. I researched the quickest and best way to commit suicide. I wrote letters to all my friends and family, and chose the clothes I was going to wear, the day and the time, and where I was going to do it. I still don't know what triggered it, other than that Elizabeth is a very psychic lady. Somehow she must have picked up on my intention. I know she enlisted others to help, but to be honest, I had already said my goodbyes to the world. I had stood in front of the mirror and said goodbye to myself. My soul had already left, so I don't remember what happened in the physical world so much. Afterwards, people told me that they hardly recognized me. All I know is that Elizabeth, my husband, and a few other people pulled me right back from the brink of leaving the physical world. I have been down before, and have even encountered feeling depressed before, but I had never planned so meticulously to take my own life before. It took days before I could function to some extent again. Obviously, everything Elizabeth and my other dear friends did and said worked, and I decided to stay because I'm still here. Getting back from that dark, cold place, however, was another long journey. I knew that in order to live in the world again, I had to raise my vibration back to life. I found some frequency videos on YouTube and started playing them all day and all night. It worked. As the days went by, I started to feel lighter. Then came the shock that our landlord's solution to the problem was to sell the apartment we'd been living in. We had been discussing putting acoustic tiles on the ceiling, and he had given his consent. But now he was in a hurry to sell the apartment as fast as possible and sent his brother to negotiate with us, as we'd always been promised first option to buy the property when he decided to sell it. Buying it now wasn't an option for us, however, so the idea of losing our home only added to the recent stress. I didn't feel strong enough yet to deal with this new stressful development in our lives. I felt I couldn't suddenly fix the situation. Instead, I started going for very long walks and tried to understand how to live in the world now. I knew that I wanted my life to be different from what it had been. I want to help people in a way I was perhaps not equipped to do before. I'm still not sure how, but I'm willing to wait for that answer to come when the time is right. I truly felt as though I had gone through a kind of death and rebirth experience. I also read everything I could find on how to manifest the kind of life I wanted. As my feelings became lighter, I felt as though I was standing at the edge of a whole new experience in this lifetime. I meditated and invented affirmations that felt authentic to me, and I continued to endeavour to raise my vibration every day. It felt as though the journey I was on had taken years, even though less than 2 months had passed. Then I had an amazing epiphany, which I'd like to share with you. I saw clearly how we are a part of the intelligent energy that infuses all of creation. It animates us, and I feel we had to have made an agreement to become a physical representation of it. Why? So that our experiences, good, bad, or ugly, can help us to evolve into wiser, more expanded beings. I've read about these ideas for years, but now it became a knowingness inside my body. Maybe others have already come to understand this, but the idea, when it hit me, was overwhelming in helping me to understand that all our experiences are necessary, no matter how dark and difficult they may be. It is my deepest wish that my story may help someone else who may be going through something difficult. Don't dismiss your value to the world. You and your experiences are not only valuable, but your willingness to go where others may perhaps not have the courage to go expands all of us. Your path is unique. It makes us all more empathic, more understanding, more loving and wiser. Please remember that you are a miracle. The chances of you being born was 1 in around 100 million. You were meant to be here. More than that, the world can experience things, thoughts, actions and creations from you uniquely through you only. No one else thinks quite like you do, or share yourself with the world quite like you do. Without you in the world and your willingness to share yourself with the world, no one can learn and expand through your unique thoughts, love and wisdom. So much else came to me with remarkable clarity, but for now, this is all I feel I want to share. You do not know your effect on others. I never knew how much I was loved until this experience. I have no words to express my gratitude for that. Thank you for listening. I wish you all well in mind, body and spirit.